Every Saturday, the three of us meet at our favorite cafe, Victoria, Lauren, and me. We catch up, laugh, and talk about everything under the sun. That day, we were talking about someone else's divorce, cheating husbands, and prenups. Victoria looked at me with a smile. Mary's the lucky one. Andrew absolutely adores her. I just laughed it off, feeling a little embarrassed. But then I caught Lauren giving me a strange look before quickly looking away. She knew something she couldn't quite bring herself to say. Finally, she mentioned she'd seen Andrew with a pregnant young woman. Then she rushed to add, "It probably means nothing." I smiled, made a joke, and changed the subject. A second later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Your husband is in the hospital. He's had a heart attack. You need to come right away." I ran out of the cafe without saying goodbye. I drove across the city, repeating the same words over and over. "Please let him be alive. Please let him be alive." At the reception desk, time seemed to stop. The woman behind the counter flipped through her paperwork without any sense of urgency. Then in a flat voice, she said, "There's nothing you can do for him now." Everything went black. My legs nearly gave out. "He's alive, he's alive." "He's already been treated," she added irritably. I let out a shaky breath. My heart finally started beating again. But the relief lasted only as long as it took me to reach the third floor. Waiting around the corner was something far worse than a heart attack. I heard the voice before I even reached the corner. Young, shaken. A nurse asked, "And who are you to him?" Without missing a beat, the young woman answered, "I'm his wife." 3 words. That was all it took for something inside me to break. I pressed myself against the wall, then slowly peeked around the corner. She was very pregnant. So young, beautiful in that fragile, innocent way men seem to find irresistible. I told myself it had to be a coincidence. Sterling isn't exactly a rare last name, but then I heard his voice through the closed door. His voice, his tone. The way he said, "Hey, sweetheart." It was Andrew, my husband, talking to her exactly the way he used to talk to me. I slipped into the restroom and locked the door. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I stood in front of the mirror, pale, my eyes wild. I splashed cold water on my face and made a decision. I pulled a white lab coat off the hook behind the door, took a notepad from my purse, and 5 minutes later I was walking behind her, pretending to be the doctor taking her medical history. Her name was Alicia Courtney. She'd been with Andrew for 2 years. The baby was his. She told me everything without hesitation, never suspecting who I really was. She said his legal wife, me, was mentally unstable. That I'd be committed to a psychiatric hospital. That Andrew would marry her as soon as the baby was born. She gently rubbed her belly, glowing with happiness. She believed every single word. And that's when I realized she wasn't the enemy. She was a victim. The real enemy was upstairs on the 3rd floor, lying in a hospital bed with an IV in his arm. He lit up the moment I walked in. His whole face brightened. He leaned in to kiss me. His voice was soft, warm, familiar. "Sweetheart, don't cry. I'm okay." And that was the moment I truly saw him for the first time. Not my husband, a master performer. He was looking at me with the exact same eyes he'd been looking at her with just moments before. The same words, the same tone, the same voice. For 20 years, that voice had been the safest sound in my world. I turned toward the window, pretending I was overwhelmed. The truth was, I didn't want him to see the hatred in my eyes. I told him I had to get back to work and left as quickly as I could. Outside the hospital, I sank onto a bench. The April sun shone down, steady and completely indifferent. The tears came on their own. But my mind was already making a plan. Lauren opened the door, and one look at her face told me she'd been expecting this visit. I told her everything. She wasn't surprised. She admitted she'd seen them together more than once, hugging in the cafe across from the restaurant. She thought it would blow over on its own. She didn't want to be the bearer of bad news. Then she told me I should forgive him. Said that's how life works, that relationships are about compromise, that I'd been happy once. Every word felt like another stone crushing me. My best friend, 20 years by my side, and there she was explaining why all of this was somehow understandable. I stood up, put on my coat. Calmly said, "I'll decide for myself what happens next." I walked out. My hands were already clenched into fists before the elevator reached the lobby. But I did learn one important thing. Lauren had known for a long time, which meant she wasn't the only one. The next day, I slipped into a Scarlet McQueen dress, not to impress anyone, to protect myself. Let them look at the dress instead of my eyes. I walked into the restaurant like I owned the place, because I did, even if everyone seemed to have forgotten. The staff froze. The hostess smiled just a little too carefully. I went straight to the office. Annie, his secretary, smart and honest, looked up at me over her round glasses. I needed an ally. I asked for the financial records. She printed them without a word. Everything was spotless, not a single suspicious expense. And yet he'd bought her diamonds, rented her an apartment, paid for her car. So where was the money coming from, Andrew? The mystery was still unsolved, but Annie was no longer a stranger. Lauren gave me the name of a divorce lawyer through her daughter. Isaac Wayne was a short, round, cheerful little man with stacks of files reaching the ceiling. He smiled as if divorce were a celebration instead of a disaster. I laid out my situation. He nodded, took notes, even chewed on his pencil. Then he leaned back in his chair and folded his hands. "It's simple," he said. "Everything you earn together gets split 50-50. That's the law." I asked about hidden assets, about money that had been disappearing without a trace. He shrugged. "You need proof. Without proof, it's 50-50. End of story. I walked out feeling like I'd wasted an hour. The lawyer Lauren recommended was clearly not the shark I needed. I realized that a little later, and not just about the lawyer. I found Andrew's phone in the pocket of the jacket I'd brought home from the hospital. I took him a few things, sat with him, and talked as if everything was perfectly normal. Somewhere in the conversation, I casually suggested we sign a prenup, almost like a joke. "Sweetheart, we have nothing to fight over," he laughed. "Okay," I said, "but if there's anything you want to tell me, this is your chance." He looked me straight in the eyes, and he lied, calmly. Confidently, almost tenderly. The way only someone with years of practice can lie. I nodded, said goodbye, walked out into the hallway. His phone was already in my purse. He had just used up his very last chance. In the car, I unlocked his phone. The passcode was our daughter's birthday. That was almost funny. I found exactly what I was looking for. A contact named Dr. Grace Sullivan, a gynecologist at a private clinic. Right next to it was a message thread with a BMW dealership. Black, with a giant bow, a gift for the baby. I didn't cry. I called the dealership using Andrew's voice. After 20 years together, copying his tone came naturally. The sales manager was polite. He confirmed the order. I told him his secretary would pick it up. Then I called Annie and explained what I needed her to do. There was a long silence. "Okay," she said quietly. I put my phone away. For the first time, I felt something close to peace, cold, precise, businesslike. I was focused. I was ready. That day, Nancy came to see me with her grandson. She was raising him alone after his parents were killed in a car accident. Tommy was 6 years old and barely spoke. The three of us sat together, his grandmother, Tommy, and me. I held up picture cards while he studied them with those serious little eyes. Slowly, one word at a time. Moments like that remind me why I do this work. I dreamed for years of opening a children's center, not just another office, but a real place where kids like Tommy could come again and again. Without being rushed, without endless waiting lists. My name is Mary Sterling. I've been a speech therapist for 20 years. But now that name also belongs to a woman with a plan. After my last appointment, I drove to Alicia's clinic. It was an upscale private clinic, a spotless lobby, soft music playing. A nurse behind the front desk, with the kind of face that had learned how to keep secrets. Her name was Sarah. I tried asking a few careful questions, keeping it casual. She gave me a polite, professional smile. Patient information was confidential. I stayed there until closing. Then I waited a little longer, sitting on the front steps in the cool April breeze. Finally, Sarah came out, wearing her coat with her purse over her shoulder, hurrying home. She saw me and stopped. "You're still here," I nodded. "Listen," she said gently. "I understand what you're going through, but revenge never ends well." Revenge, that's what she called it. I thanked her and walked away, but my mind was already somewhere else. I needed someone on the inside. Victoria called that evening. Focused and efficient, she'd already done exactly what I'd asked. She found a cleaning lady at the maternity hospital. A woman who'd worked there for years, knew the schedule, and noticed everything. For a modest payment, she agreed to let us know. The moment Alicia was admitted in labor. It was a breakthrough. Then Isaac Wayne called back. His voice was apologetic. They hadn't found any hidden accounts. Everything was clean. Legally, there was nothing. I thanked him and hung up. Outside, the April evening settled over New York, the city glowing with lights. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of cold tea, staring at the wall. "Where are you hiding the money, Andrew?" That question had haunted me from the very beginning. I put on a light-colored dress. Simple, elegant, understated. I styled my hair and was ready to head out. Then the doorbell rang, Lauren, uninvited. Looking worried, "Mary, are you going somewhere?" I smiled and told her I had a date. I saw her tense up. Good, let her worry, let her call Andrew. Let him get a little nervous too, in his hospital room. I walked out of the building, hailed a cab, and headed where I'd planned to go all along. Not on a date, of course. I needed to ask a favor from someone I hadn't seen in years. The Eagle, Pierce Vance. Jean-Luc met me at the entrance, a manager with flawless manners. He led me through the room, past the carved door at the very end. Pierce Vance. We hadn't seen each other in maybe 10 years. No, longer. Growing up, he called me Redhead. I called him Eagle. He was sitting at his desk, looking at me like I'd walked in just yesterday. I didn't beat around the bush. I asked him point blank, acquire Andrew's restaurant, push him out of the market, take full advantage of the situation. Pierce listened carefully without interrupting. Then he slowly shook his head. "No, Redhead. Not like that." I looked at him, thinking, he's going to refuse, but he won't walk away. This was only the beginning of our negotiation. I headed home with a heavy head. Nobody helped me. Pierce turned me down. Without money or connections, there was no way to get the restaurant back. It felt bitter. I had poured so much of myself into it, only to end up as nothing more than the restaurateur's wife. I parked, went upstairs, and unlocked the door. The apartment lights were on, and dishes were clinking. Clenching the pepper spray in my bag, I froze. But then Andrew walked out. Right off the bat, he demanded to know where on earth I'd been gallivanting around until 11 at night. I coldly replied that I was at a business meeting and instantly went on the attack. I asked who the pregnant girl visiting him in the hospital was, and if she was another one of his sisters. A flash of terror washed over his eyes. Andrew tried to lie, but I told him to cut the crap. I told him straight up that I knew everything about his pregnant wife, whom I'd already spoken to, and about his plan to ship me off to a psych ward. Andrew went dead silent, frantically searching for an escape route, but there wasn't one. Andrew began speaking with deep sincerity, assuring me he had realized everything and begging for forgiveness. I looked into his eyes and knew he was asking me to put my rose-colored glasses back on. In an icy tone, I told him to pack his bags. But Andrew had the nerve to claim this was his home, setting himself down on the couch. My eyes fell on his wallet and phone sitting on the table. While he was trying to figure things out, I grabbed them and slipped out onto the balcony. Andrew rushed after me as everything went flying down: documents, cash, and car keys. He screamed in a panic that his passport was down there, so I shouted after him to run faster before the homeless picked it all up. Cursing up a storm, Andrew bolted out of the apartment. I locked the door on the chain and headed for the closet. There would be no forgiveness. I was done being a fool. I started yanking everything out of the closet: Tom Ford jackets, Zegna turtlenecks, jeans, and piled them onto the floor. I'd ironed every single piece with my own hands. The amount of effort I'd poured into keeping him looking sharp. Let his new little wifey do the laundry now. I dragged the pile out to the balcony. Down below, cursing away, Andrew was still crawling around looking for his keys. I shouted for him to wait and tossed his laptop over the edge. In a panic, he begged me not to touch the laptop. There was important info on it. I just sneered and asked if he'd caught it. Too bad he missed. I shut the balcony door and went to make some tea. Suddenly, a thought hit me like a ton of bricks. Why on earth had Andrew rushed out of the hospital like that? I hadn't shared my plans with anyone. Except Lauren. No way, or... The next day, I drove over to Lauren's. Seeing her walk into her apartment building, I dialed her number. Flustered, Lauren lied that she wasn't home, but I had to burst her bubble. She let me in. Pure fear was written all over her face. I asked her point blank if she was the one who told Andrew about the date. Lauren kept denying it. So I told her to stop lying. After all, her top-tier lawyer had turned out to be a complete joke. And she herself had been insisting I give up everything without a fight. Suddenly, Lauren's face twisted with malice. She screamed that the pregnant girl was her niece. My so-called friend spat out that I had always bragged about my happy life, and now it was my turn to taste what she had been living through. Behind that mask lay nothing but hatred and envy. I called her a rotten snake and walked out of her life for good. I drove back to the empty apartment, running on fumes. My friend's betrayal had shattered me. My trust in people was completely gone. Tears welled up in my eyes as a wave of deep exhaustion washed over me. I genuinely caught myself wondering if taking this to court was even worth it, or if it would be easier to just throw in the towel. I unlocked the door and froze. Someone was inside. Fear instantly morphed into pure rage. I marched into the living room, only to stand there completely stunned. The room was literally buried in massive bouquets of flowers, with a full spread of food and champagne laid out on the table. Out walked Andrew from the kitchen, wearing a white chef's hat and an apron. He gave me a playful wink, flashing a wide grin, and announced that he wanted to make peace. I could barely fight off a smirk. Forcing a stern expression, I cut him off cold, telling him there would be no reconciliation. When he guiltily admitted that he deserved to be punished, I calmly told him to go punish himself, because all I wanted to do was eat. Andrew earnestly admitted his guilt, swearing his love and begging me to stay. I ate, starving as a wolf, and listened. My phone lay right beside me, quietly recording every single word. My husband went on about what to do with his pregnant mistress, suggesting he just toss her some cash or banish her to some godforsaken backwater village. I'd had enough. In an icy tone, I told him to pack his bags. In response, Andrew screamed that he'd leave me without a stitch of clothing to my name and slammed the door with a loud bang. In the quiet that followed, I checked the recording. It was top-notch, and snapped a few photos of the table covered in flowers. Before long, he called from an unknown number, throwing around threats about his connections and taking me to court. I told him where to shove it and hung up. My hands were shaking with the wild urge to smash his face in. I'm not backing down. The doorbell rang, persistently. I figured it was Andrew coming back. I yanked the door open and dumped a plate of hot meat and gravy right onto my uninvited guest. But the voice wasn't his. Peering through a thick layer of gravy was a furious, dripping wet Pierce. He grumbled that he'd come over to talk, not to take a bath in my dinner. I tried to bite my lip, but I couldn't hold it in. I burst out laughing until I was in tears. Pierce snapped that it wasn't funny and headed straight for the bathroom. Meanwhile, I put the kettle on. When he returned, shirtless and still visibly annoyed, he finally got down to business. He revealed that my husband owned 2 more restaurants, one registered under his mother's name, and the other under his mistress's, and that's where all the real cash was flowing from. Andrew had built an entire network behind my back, and Pierce warned me that in a divorce, I wouldn't see a dime from them. In that moment, I was pure, unadulterated rage at what an absolute jerk he was. But Pierce just smirked and said we just have to see about fixing that. The next morning, Pierce showed up again. When I asked what we should do next, he suggested seizing Andrew's mistress's restaurant, asking if I had a way in. I told him I knew how to get access, which earned me a smirk and a comment about being a dangerous woman. I set my terms, taking full ownership of the business and paying him back every penny, but Pierce shot it down, insisting on a 50-50 split instead. The following day, he returned with a lavish bouquet, proposing we put on a little show for my husband as a passionate couple. Sure enough, Andrew was waiting right by the entrance. Pierce gallantly opened my car door and kissed my hand, while I languidly thanked him for an unforgettable evening. Pretending I had only just spotted my husband, I asked with fake surprise why he was there. Andrew exploded with jealousy, but I cut him dead, telling him he had lost his right to a say long ago, before walking away. At the dealership, Annie confidently introduced herself to the manager as Andrew's assistant, claiming he had sent her to pick up the car. When the employee hesitated, she haughtily raised an eyebrow and announced that her boss was suffering a heart attack, dropping a heavy hint about what would happen if the brand new BMW wasn't delivered to the maternity ward on time. Completely crushed by her sheer pressure, the manager vanished, returning a minute later with the paperwork and pointing toward a stunning car wrapped in a big red bow. I took over the wheel from Annie just around the corner. I was absolutely thrilled, raving about her talent and urging her to apply for drama school. Glowing with pride, Annie admitted she had always dreamed of acting, but her mother had pushed her into a career as a secretary instead. After dropping her off at work, I drove over to the maternity hospital, snapped a photo of the car set against the building, and dialing Martha. headed decisively straight for the room. Alicia was gazing at the newborn in the crib beside her bed, but her eyes widened in terror the second she spotted me. I motioned for her to keep quiet, promising to finally open her eyes to the truth. I showed her the photo of the brand new BMW parked right outside the maternity hospital, explaining that her man had registered this lavish gift under my name, not hers. Alicia turned pale in an instant. Next, I played the audio recording where Andrew called her foolish and suggested banishing her to some godforsaken backwater village. Pure, white-hot fury flared up in the young mother's eyes. I asked if she knew about the restaurant secretly put in her name. Bursts of tears streaming down her face, Alicia admitted she had signed the papers. I firmly told her not to hand the business back over to Andrew, promising her my support. A flash of raw greed lit up her eyes. She was completely eating out of the palm of my hand. That morning, Andrew's entire world came crashing down before his eyes. He woke up with a brutal hangover after celebrating his son's birth with Simon. His head was pounding, and over at the restaurant, a ruthless inspection was underway. The new inspector, staring back at him with icy eyes, flat out refused a bribe and shut the place down on the spot, a devastating financial blow. Panicking, Andrew rushed to the maternity hospital, only to find Alicia had already been discharged and left with someone claiming to be her husband. He was left completely paralyzed with shock. Meanwhile, I was already sitting in Pierce's office. I was absolutely certain Alicia would sign whatever paper I put in front of her. The plan was simple. The moment she got discharged, we'd bring in Harvey the lawyer and Miles the accountant, run an audit, and transfer the restaurant into my hands. Pierce's eyes nearly popped out of his head in disbelief. He kept grilling me on how I managed to pull it off, but I just offered a mysterious smile. After all, she has the brain of a goldfish. Pierce let out a crude smirk, dropping a sleazy hint about how she must have hooked Andrew in the first place. But I put that dirty-minded idiot right back in his place. We met with Alicia at her restaurant. I put on a dead serious face and assured her the business was buried in debt, even though the place was running completely fine. Terrified, my rival asked what she should do. So I advised her to sell the restaurant as quickly as possible before Andrew's creditors seized it for nothing. I named a modest figure, but promised to ask my friend to throw in a little extra, which instantly made Alicia's eyes light up. I promised to finalize the deal that very day so she could board a flight to the Maldives by evening. Harvey the lawyer drafted the documents, and Alicia signed everything without asking a single question. Walking out into the street, I felt a rush of absolute freedom. I dialed Pierce and congratulated him on our new acquisition, reminding him about my cut. He laughed, called me redhead, and the payment hit my account a moment later. Now I was heading over to Victoria's to deal with Lauren. When Andrew arrived at Alicia's, a beefy stranger greeted him at the door, and she calmly introduced the guy as her future husband. When my husband frantically brought up the business, my rival cut him off cold, stating the restaurant belonged strictly to her, and dropped an even bigger bomb, offering a DNA test and declaring the baby wasn't even his. He was totally destroyed. Alicia's place was gone, our joint business had been shut down by the inspector, and all he had left was his mother's restaurant. That night, Andrew was waiting for Pierce and me right outside the entrance. My companion threw a subtle arm around me for show. My husband begged me to come home, but I shut him down hard, making it clear he was the odd man out. I asked if he had really thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and finally dropped the truth. I was the one who taught Alicia how to strip him of his business. The look in his eyes said it all. He finally realized I had completely won. In my kitchen, Pierce openly confessed to tailing me. He explained that we had gone to the restaurant the moment he found out Andrew was running around town in a rage, almost certainly planning to ambush me by my building, and apologized for interfering. In all seriousness, Pierce tried to convince me that the closest person I have is myself, and that it was high time I showed some healthy selfishness and acted strictly in my own best interests. Having picked up my daughter Christina, I headed over to my mother-in-law's place. The entire family gathered at the table. Andrew, mother-in-law Irene, Christina herself, while my son Arthur watched via video call. In the oppressive silence, I played the incriminating recording of Alicia. The mistress's revelations about my husband's plans to lock me away in a mental hospital so he could marry her, along with his secret splurges on diamond jewelry, echoed through the dead, quiet room. I coldly invited Andrew to explain himself to his family, laying out the truth about his hidden restaurants and the asylum scheme. Christina burst into tears, while Arthur laid into his father with brutal honesty from the screen, apologized to me, and hung up. Leaving my deathly pale husband in the suffocating silence, I stood up from the table. My children had taken my side without a second thought. When Fletcher, a gray-haired, dangerous mobster, and the lender Andrew had secretly borrowed money from to buy those hidden restaurants, harshly demanded his money back. Declaring that time had completely run out, Andrew just stood before him like a chastised schoolboy. He was given exactly 1 week, with a crystal-clear warning that the alternative was a 6-foot hole in the cold, wet ground. For Andrew, the only way out was to go begging to Pierce, an utterly humiliating prospect. But the choice came down to his own pride, or a plot in the cemetery. 6 months later, life was flowing in a completely different direction. Victoria and I were lazily chatting in our favorite cafe when Lauren appeared nearby with a stroller. As it turned out, she was now raising Alicia's baby all by herself. Lauren quietly asked for my forgiveness, and to my own surprise, I caught myself realizing that I truly didn't hold a single shred of resentment against her. Suddenly, Pierce's SUV slammed on its brakes right beside the terrace. He stepped out, gently blindfolded me with a thick cloth, and whisked me away. As it turned out, straight to the registry office. To the deafening applause of Christina, Arthur, and all our closest friends, Pierce confessed that he was officially tired of trying to persuade me, demanding that I become his wife right then and there, in front of everyone. The guests enthusiastically joined in, cheering his words. At that moment, an absolute sense of peace and calm settled inside me. Looking at him, I realized with complete clarity just how deeply I loved this man, and through tears of happiness, I gave him a resounding yes. Our life moves forward, sometimes complicated, sometimes unpredictable, but still so damn beautiful.